go. You just clicked on the Meaningful People podcast, and that's what you're listening to. This episode is with Emmi Polansky, an extremely, extremely strong woman. She has this awesome Instagram account, Living Amuna. Emmi is somebody who got married at a young age, and unfortunately she got divorced. But she has a child. She has a beautiful son who she is raising by herself, with, of course, with the help of her family. But being a single mother is not easy. And Emmi decided that she's going to speak out about it. Speak out about breaking the stigma surrounding it and what you need to know about those people that are in our communities, all around us, how we can be more sensitive to them, what we can understand about them. So Emmi Polansky got very vulnerable, and she told us her story here on the Meaningful People podcast. In this episode, I had a special co-host with me, guest co-host, Mordechai Weinberger from Serenity Center, the executive director, the well-known therapist. He joined me for this episode. Listen up. This is an amazing episode. Thank you, Mordechai. Thank you, Emmi. This episode of the Meaningful People podcast has been sponsored by the Glaubach family. Jonathan Glaubach and his family, thank you. This episode is sponsored in memory of their father, Dr. Felix Glaubach, a tremendous Baal Chesed and Baal Tzedakah, who passed away a little over a week ago. He lived a very long and fulfilling life. The neshama of Ephraim Fischel Aryeh ben Baruch should have an aliyah. Just before we get into this episode, the person, again, this week with the most liked comment on this YouTube video, the most liked comment, will get $200 cash prize. Okay, so guys, leave a comment right now. All you gotta do is a YouTube video, leave a comment. Love this episode. Love your podcast. This is awesome. I just drink a cup of orange juice. Whatever you want, really. Leave a comment on this episode. And the most liked comment, well, you shouldn't just leave any comment. You should leave the comment that's going to get the most likes. The most liked comment is going to get $200 cash. We will announce the winner on Thursday. And here is Emmi Polansky on Meaningful People. Take me to like the beginning, you know, a little bit of the framework for who you are, where you grew up, and guest co-host here, Mordechai Weinberger, executive director of the Serenity Center. He's a therapist, but for this conversation, he's not a therapist. He's just our co-host here, and he's going to help sort of unpack your story, your message. I think it's an important topic, and like I told you before we started, here on this podcast, it's our mission, it's our passion to really speak about the things that people don't really speak about, and to make people in the world who are going through this similarly, which I'm sure there are a lot of people. Like I'm not sure, we know there are a lot of people, to make them more comfortable and to make them feel like they're not alone. So we're going to talk about your story, and I commend you. It's probably not easy to say. It's probably difficult to be vulnerable the way you're doing it. So I really appreciate you doing that. But take us from the beginning.
I grew up in the Five Towns, and I had a pretty standard upbringing, Orthodox. As I started dating around 18, I would say I felt like I struggled with the shidduch system very early on. I felt like people automatically want to put you in a box. And I went to Camp Hask. I worked there. And so people would set me up with people who went to Camp Hask. And I was always like, I'm so much more than just working in Camp Hask. I mean, working in Camp Hask is amazing. Yeah. But
most special place on earth. It's amazing.
Yeah, the happiest place on earth outside of Disney. And I just felt like I'm so much more than just working in Camp Hask. But people would set me up just because I worked in Camp Hask. So I definitely was like, I struggled with it. I dated a bunch, nothing crazy, but I definitely went on my fair share of first dates. And then I met my ex-husband at my Shabbos table. He was my brother's chavrusa, and he came to my house for Shabbos meal, and we met, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is it. I have the story. I met my husband at my Shabbos table, and I didn't go through the shidduch system, and it all worked out, and I was very happy. We dated for 3.5 months, and then we were engaged for 3.5 months, and then we got married when I was 20, and we were married for around a year and change. I had my son shortly after, like a month after our 1 year anniversary.
Right.
I called my mom
Yeah.
I live
Smart.
2 minutes from my parents' house.
Yeah.
Call my mom. I was like, Mom, I don't know what just happened. I'm coming home. I was just cleared to drive, like the day before. And I went home. And again, this was the day before Pesach. Like, Pesach was Friday. This was Thursday. So like we were supposed to go to my parents' first days, his parents' second days. Like I was just very confused. I'm like, I don't even know where to go from here. And then we went into Pesach like that, and that was wild. My brother had just gotten engaged. His Kala was at my Pesach Seder. To say the least,
Oh, wow.
She was introduced to my family in a massive way.
Oh my gosh. Is this the brother that it was his Chavrusa?
No.
Oh.
Thank God.
That one like full circle.
Yeah, that would have been a full circle moment.
There's like a lot going on here right now.
A lot to unpack here.
Die, like, you know?
Yeah, and I remember I was sitting at the Seder table, and Seder is like, that's the Iker of family right there. Like, I'm sitting there. Everything that I thought I had was like thrown up in the air. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I was looking around at my family, and I was just lost. Like, I was like, what is happening? Like, why am I sitting here with my baby? Like, where's my husband? What is going on? And that was like the one thing that I remember of just really thinking, what is happening right now? And like, how did I get here?
I always think about like those situations where we hear, unfortunately, you know, there are people who pass away and then a family has to go into Shabbos, or there's tragedies that happen, and then you're supposed to just act normal. You're supposed to go into a Yontif, go into a Shabbos, and just be. Yeah. And you were in that situation.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't think about that.
Reality is like, it's Yontif, and and you said your brother's Kala was there. Yeah. So it's like family's really happy meeting this new Kala, but also family is devastated because something's going on and confused.
Yeah. It was a very confusing time. It was a very overwhelming time. I was in tears most of that night, most of that Yontif. And then, you know, fast forward after Yontif, and I was basically informed that I was no longer going to be married. And it was very official. And 6 months later, I had my get. And then I was divorced, and I just had to deal with it. And that was very hard because I was in this life of like, I had everything that I wanted. And then all of a sudden it was like, I have no idea what to do now. Like, I don't know how to move forward from this. Like, I have nothing. And I had a lot looking back, but in the moment I was like, I have nothing. Like, I lost everything. And I had to wait 6 months for my get. It took me 6 months to get it.
Is that like is that the norm? Is that like a?
There's no. I don't know if there's a norm. If there is, I'm not aware of it. I think with children, it normally can take a little more time because you're navigating custody. But I wanted it. By the time I got it, I wanted it. Right. And it was the biggest bracha because if I had gotten it 6 months earlier, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Right. Like, the get process it's a really intense process, and it's very, they really make it clear that you're no longer married, and you have to say, you know, you're no longer my husband, and you're free to pursue other women. And your husband says, you know, you're no longer my wife, and you're free to marry other men. And it's a very hard thing to hear your spouse or no longer spouse say.
Especially if you didn't, in your case, you didn't want that.
Yeah. So it was a lot. But it was really the bracha of time and giving me the ability to come to terms with the fact that, okay, I'm not going to understand why this is happening to me, but I'm ready for it now. And that was like a really big thing.
I think it's important to heighten that. Well, you said you had family. You had someone to reach out to, parents, you're there. And like from when you found out till the end, that's 6 months. That's a long period. It's also a short period, but you had some support.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's like, as a therapist, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, what must be going on? I must be reaching out to you, to him. Can we still make it work? Can't we make it work? Is there any reasons why? Like, they usually don't want to just give a get, not the bezdin, no therapist. Family doesn't want to, especially if you had a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, no one is just saying, and there's now a child. So no one's saying like, just get divorced.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch that I'm not gonna share on such a public platform,
which we encourage not to. You know,
just to keep the peace that is now there. But yeah, I mean, it was very hard to comprehend for everybody involved, even the based in. Like, it was hard to comprehend. And we did have to go to therapy before he was able to give me the get, because he's a Kohen also. So there's no chance of remarriage. So when it's something so final and so abrupt, they want to make sure that it's, kosher. And we got divorced.
Did you get clarity? Like, or is just one of those things that still today you're living with no clarity, but you're past that parsha in a way, but there's no clarity there?
So it's interesting. I say this all the time, that I had to learn to understand that I'm not going to understand, and that I'm not going to get clarity. Mm-hmm. But I also learned that clarity, like, I don't know if he were to come to me tomorrow and say, this is why I did it, I don't know that it would have changed. I wouldn't be like, oh, okay, like, that makes sense now. Like, I think clarity and that closure is the word I'm looking for. Like, closure comes from yourself. Like, we really create our own closure, because just because you know why someone passed away or why you got divorced, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're okay with it, And I had to learn how to create my own sense of closure, and move past what happened. I don't think that anyone ever can fully step away from what happened to them. Even 10, 15, 50 years down the line, it's always a part of you. It's a part of your story. It's a part of who you are. And hopefully you grew from it. But creating your own closure and being able to move forward and not be a broken person from it, I think that's the most important thing.
And this is all happening at such a young age. Like, your friends at this time are likely married, having kids, and it's almost like you're stuck in time.
Yeah. That was definitely, I think, one of the hardest things to navigate for me. Was I was one of the first of my friends to get married. And then all of a sudden, all of my bridesmaids, I had 4, all of them got married the year of my wedding. So I was like, oh, my wedding is a segula to get married. And then I got divorced. And I was like, wait, I don't understand what's happening here.
Right.
Like, you guys are all married now and I'm divorced. And, navigating my friendships that are now, I'm single, you guys have spouses, you guys are having children, and I'm, Baruch Hashem, blessed to have a child, but the strong, deep, intense desire to have more children, when I had that, like, I had the life, I got married, I got pregnant, I was like, I finally am living that life that I've always wanted to live and build a family. And now I'm watching everybody else build a family and get married and move forward. And I'm stuck back living in my parents' house with my son and figuring out who is Emmy now. It was like Emmy was the wife, and then Emmy was the daughter, and Emmy is the mother, and how all of that fits into my new reality of being a mother in my parents' house and respecting my parents' house and that family dynamic and creating my own family dynamic. And there's a lot that goes into it. But just really watching everybody who got married after me, got pregnant after me, of course, I'm so happy for them that they got married and they're having children, but learning that also you can feel pain for yourself and happiness for someone else at the same time, that they're not.
Yeah. You posted something like that on social media, or by a friend's wedding, and it kind of like the thing you do on social media, and we'll discuss it more as we go on, but kind of bring people into the life through your eyes. And you're at the wedding, you're happy for your friend, you're dancing, but you're also going to your car to cry because of what you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's at such a young age, handling all of that. Mordechai, I think he touched upon something so important, which was the role of the friends and the family, and more notably the family.
Yeah.
during those 6 months where you're in the process of getting a get, waiting for a get, what is your family, doing for you? Is there anything that they're saying to you that's helping you get through those days?
So it's a hard question because I don't know that there was so much to say. I am so blessed that I was able to move home and live with my family, and that I'm still able to live with my family and have that support system, because there are so many people that I talk to on a daily basis that don't have that support system or don't have the ability to live with their family. And so the fact that I could just move right back at home the same day, I didn't spend one night alone. Like, I literally that morning went straight home.
And there are people that are in their environment, so they don't want to be home.
Right.
They
exactly.
don't feel they could even go home.
Yeah. My phone's ringing.
Like they don't feel like it's like the last place they want to do is go back to their child at home.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem, you were.
Yeah. I'm so blessed to have a family that I wanted to go back to and that had the ability to open their home to me. And going back into that situation, I think it was hard for everybody. Everybody felt betrayed. I mean, obviously I was dealing with a massive betrayal and a whole life shift, but everybody was. And all of a sudden my baby became a part of my family's dynamic.
Yeah.
Like he's my sister's and my brother's their nephew, but he's almost like their little brother in a way because he's there every single day. And it was an entirely new dynamic and nobody really knew how to handle it. And that was something that I think anyone who's going through anything difficult deals with, where the people, you don't know what to say. And you always hear like these crazy things that people say in a Shiva house, right? It's because people don't know how to deal. They don't know what to say when something isn't on the path, on the regular path, especially when something is shocking or traumatic. That's why like people who go to these traumatic Shiva homes, they say these out-of-pocket things and you're like, how could you say that? And it's genuinely because people, they don't know what to say. They want to say something.
I take it people maybe says things to you that, or what was the craziest thing? Just get out of the way.
I've had some pretty crazy comments. One guy told me, I saw him on the street. I didn't even like really know him. I just knew him from, he's like my parents' friend. He's like, oh, you drove him so crazy he left?
I was actually going to ask you about the stigma similar to that. Was there the concept all of a sudden you divorced? Was there people all of a sudden blaming you? Well, if they got divorced in such a short time, must be.
So
the family's got issues and she really isn't so nice.
So my biggest fear, one of my biggest fears after getting divorced was like, what are people going to think of me that he left me? Obviously, I have to be the problem if he left me. And thankfully, I had an incredible therapist who helped me to see that I was okay, and that people weren't going to think that. And also to accept the fact that people are going to think whatever they're going to think. And I can't do anything to change that. Someone once told me something really, really smart that resonated with me till this day. She said, how other people feel about you is not your problem. And I was like, that's true. I mean, obviously, we have to be good people and act nicely and treat people nicely. And you want people to think of you as a good, honest, kind person. You want to be a good, honest, kind person. But at the end of the day, you can't change what people are going to think and people's perception of you. And it also, I had to learn that it didn't really matter what they were going to think.
It is the moment we've all been waiting for. I am right now about to choose the winner for the PZ Deals free car lease giveaway. Well, I'm not just picking a name. I'm going to put in all the entries, which is over 10,000 of them, into an Excel, that Excel into ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to go ahead and select a random winner. Let's go. Drag that there. Alrighty. Now we wait, and a winner is chosen. And the winner is... boom! Chaya Hassan. Okay, let me just look up her number right now on the Excel sheet. Boom. Okay, guys, we got her number. We're going to go call it right now. This is live. She's about to win a free car lease. And you guys are going to hear her live reaction. Chaya, hope you answer.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available.
What?
At the tone.
That's a bust. We're going to try again because when you win a car, you have to answer your phone, people. If you win a car, you want to make sure you answer your phone, right? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, is this Chaya?
Yeah, speaking. How can I help you?
Hi, this is Nachi Gordon. I'm calling to let you know that you won the free car lease giveaway from Peasy Deals.
No way. What?
Yes, I'm calling you.
I don't win. What?
Yes, and you're actually, this phone call is being recorded, and I wanted to let you know that you won.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. How
Thank
exciting.
you, Jim. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Do you need a car?
Yeah, we can buy the car, of course.
Okay, you are the winner, and someone from Peasy Deals is going to be in touch with you to get you that prize, all right?
Oh, wow. Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much. Wow.
You got it. Congrats.
Incredible.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you, Hashem.
That, my friend, is how you make someone's day. And that's only from Peasy Deals. Chaya is never going to pay full price again. Certainly not for that car that she's about to get for free only because she downloaded the Peasy Deals app. Guys, that just happened live. What is going to happen next from Peasy Deals? I don't know. But if I were you, I'd download the app. Of course, Colel Chabad, my friends over there, you guys got to go ahead and download the Pushka app, pushka.cc/meaningful. Before every single podcast I do, I go on that app on my phone, give a few bucks to tzedakah, and boom, boom, cha-ching. That's how you start your day. Thank you, Colel Chabad, for being a beautiful sponsor of this podcast. My friends, enjoy this episode.
Would you share a skill or two? Because that's like amazing. I'm thinking in my daily life, even though I'm a therapist, like I get stuck into that many times, like what people think. How were you able to overcome that? Or what were some of the tips or thoughts that you were able to tell yourself?
I think number one is understanding what happened, telling yourself that you're not the problem. Or even if you are the problem, let's say you are the problem and someone is talking about you. Okay. Today's news is tomorrow's trash. Okay. So people are talking. And tomorrow they'll talk about somebody else. And it's like understanding that you have to have your self-worth. You have to know who you are. Figure out who you are. And when you know who you are, then you can repeat to yourself, I am this. I am kind. I am caring. I'm not a bad person. I'm not trying to hurt people. Whatever I did or whoever I am or whatever happened, I am not trying intentionally to cause harm to other people or whatever it is the situation that you're dealing with is. I didn't want to get divorced. I didn't want to be a single mom. I didn't do anything that bad to deserve to get divorced. And even if someone gets married, they don't have a good marriage or they're not a perfect spouse because no one's a perfect spouse. Okay. So you weren't a perfect spouse. So you got into a situation that wasn't the right situation for you. Okay. So people are going to talk. And that for me was like the biggest thing was just like, okay, people are going to talk, but there is a stigma for sure. I think one of the most recent things that I've dealt with is now I'm looking to send my son to school and I've never had to really I really never have experienced outright stigma before this. This is, I think, the first time that I really experienced something and it's so fresh in my mind. It just happened yesterday.
The schooling part, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took him on an interview in a school and they were asking me, how do you know that you're going to be the same person in 10 years from now? Because we find that divorced people, they go off the rails sometimes. They asked me, are you dating? On an interview for my son's school. I was like, am I yes, I am dating. But how is that relevant here?
Like, if I'm not, which answer do you want to get?
It's just like, I was like at first I was taken aback. And then I was like, they live in their box. And what I wanted to say, which I didn't because I was on an interview for my son for school. But what I wanted to say was, how do you know that the two-parent family sitting in front of you at the table isn't having, a messed up family life or isn't getting divorced tomorrow or that the children aren't in a extremely unstable home. Like, how do you know? Just because there's two parents sitting in front of you looking the part doesn't mean that they're any more stable or less stable than someone who's divorced. Sure, someone who's divorced went through something, and there's a chance that it will send them on a path.
Everyone goes through something. The whole premise of I think what I think you're being forced, or you were forced to be a little defensive, and you don't have to be defensive. You don't have to defend your life circumstance.
Right.
Okay, so people now see your status, as opposed to someone who's going through something is behind the scenes and they can't see it. So therefore you have to explain it. I don't know.
It's so interesting because I understand where they're coming from, and they're just asking a question. If we're taking in a child to this yeshiva, like, we want to make sure that him and the values and the family values will remain the same. But judging someone because they're divorced doesn't guarantee anything more than the other. And if you are concerned, then do a little checking. But you're not asking that person, like, how do I know you're going to be the same person 10 years from now?
I don't know anybody's going to be the same.
I responded. I was like, honestly, I don't want to be the same person in 10 years from now. Like, I hope that I've grown spiritually in 10 years from now. I don't want to be the same person religiously that I am today. Like, I would hope that everyone wants to be better and do better. And so I was very taken aback, but I agree with you that I understand where they're coming from. They want to make sure that.
But there's a way to do it.
Right.
And that's the challenge.
And
choice of words.
It's a nuance. And when you're dealing with, especially this, right? Divorce is an awful thing. It's something we've spoken about a lot of times in this podcast with different people, whether it's mediators or people specialized in this field. It's a terrible thing. I don't know. They people say, you'll tell me because you I know you're more experienced, but like people say, oh, the divorce, but it was amicable. It was friendly. Is there such a thing as that really? Ultimately, like, is there?
Well, first of all, it very much depends if there are children involved.
I think, yeah. I mean, obviously, having a child involved changes the game.
Yeah.
Because even if you have hard feelings, you hope that the parents are going to put their feelings aside for the sake of their children. Now, is that always the case? Absolutely not.
Right.
But I try very hard that my son should never feel like his life is different than anybody else's, that his family situation is any different than anybody else's. And so I put my own feelings aside for him because ultimately that's what's most important.
How do you do that? That's something it's a blessing you have, meaning your son, his father caused you a tremendous amount of pain.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's your son's father.
Yeah.
And you're not going to put that on your son. You're not going to make him to believe and see your father's a bad person, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, because ultimately it's just, what does that lead to, right?
Right.
It hurts your son. It puts your son in a situation where he's confused and he's hurt and he has to deal with that. But how do you not? How do you just push yourself back and say, like, what's important here?
I think for me, one of the things that really helped was realizing that Hashem put me in this situation for a reason, and that I'm meant to be divorced. And that because I'm meant to be divorced and I was meant to have my son, which is obviously the reason I got married, because my son had to be born. I got married, got pregnant, had a baby, got divorced. That was my marriage. There wasn't anything else. I was married for a short time and almost 10 months of it, I was pregnant. So my son had to be born. And for me to push on him any sort of negative thoughts or feelings just doesn't benefit him at all. And I think a lot of divorced parents struggle with this, of even in the most amicable divorces, everyone has hard feelings. You can say you're best friends, you're not best friends. You're divorced. If you were best friends, you'd be married. Yeah. Right.
And Nafshi, to add on, a big part of the pressure that happens when there's amicable divorce is the relationship still goes on. Yeah. That means that if, let's say, the husband's always late and the wife is always on time or early, when it's his turn to pick up the kids Erev Shabbos on Friday, and he's 2 hours late and she was going to go somewhere and now they're stuck, the old scenarios are playing itself over. So then, like, why don't you text your father? When's he coming? Where is he late?
Yeah.
All of a sudden he's starting to bring back the clothing and half the clothing isn't there. So you just sent him with a suit that you just bought.
And then you realize why you got divorced.
Exactly. And then you're all frustrated.
Hopefully it's under with the clothing, because that's like silly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And these issues are coming up. So it's not just about the amicable divorce. It's about how do you keep the relationship or the interactions and not to get triggered by the reasons why there was actually a divorce.
Right.
I mean, look, obviously we're all human and people get triggered by certain situations, especially when you have to interact with your ex-spouse.
Right. That's the...
Like when you just get divorced and you don't have a kid. And this was for me, I think, one of the hardest parts about being a single mom. You're still interacting with your ex, and that does not go away ever for the next 18, 20 years. That person is still in your life. Whereas some of my friends who had, or people who I've met since getting divorced, I should say, I don't know, none of my friends actually got divorced, but some of my friends who I've met now through being divorced, they got divorced, they got married, they got divorced, and then it was like, okay, like, I mean, obviously it's hard and there's a whole world of challenges that I can't understand because I was not in that situation. So I can only speak for my own situation, but you can almost slip back into your old lifestyle of the freedom, the time freedom, and the ability to do what you want and how you want it, in a sense where you're not bound by a child or an ex, keeping you in that old life that you had. And like, I know several people who got divorced without kids and uncovered their hair because they were young. And it was like, okay, I'm young. I was married for a short time. I'm going to uncover my hair and just go right back into it. I personally felt that it was important for me to cover my hair because I got divorced. I had a child. And for me personally, I didn't want to pretend it didn't happen. Because it did happen. I got divorced.
You lean into it.
Yeah. Instead of pushing away from it, I was like, okay, like, it's hard. I go on dates and people think we're married. I go to singles events and people think I'm a facilitator. Like, it's hard. I met a guy at a singles event one time and he was like, the way I differentiate between single moms, because he was divorced. He was like, the way I differentiate between single moms and facilitators, he said, lace top, no ring. If there's a lace top, no ring, they're single moms.
If they're a button band lace tops, then he's really in trouble. Because then we have a whole new crisis on our hands then. Oh man.
Yeah, but what was I saying? How did I get here?
The whole process of being,
just, that you can, being divorced without children is an entirely different world. And I can't understand that world because I'm not in it, and I'm sure there are tons of challenges, but being divorced with a child, it's like I already started my
hard
journey.
question for you. We'll be right back to this episode. A quick word from my friends at Chesed 24/7. What do? They do Chesed 24/7. Honestly, if you've ever been in a hospital, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, maybe you had a baby, you know who's there for you. That is Chesed 24/7. Hospitality rooms all over the place. You got to eat a meal, you're there for Shabbos, Chesed 24/7. Who's there for those patients that are unfortunately undergoing chemo? Chesed 24/7. They give out 50,000 bottles of that palm juice that helps people going through chemo. 50,000. Chesed 24/7 is there for everything Chesed in your community, in your hospitals. So they got to raise some funds. So what are they doing? They're doing an incredible run. Runforchesed.org. Runforchesed.org. Girls, women, females out there, this is for you. Head to runforchesed.org. That is run for the number 4 chesed.org and sign up today. Join their run. American Dream Mall, a dance party after. It is a party. I've never been there because I'm not a female. But if you're a girl, if you're a woman, if you're a lady, sign up today at runforchesed.org. And if you sign up before January 22nd, you get an extra spectator. You get a +1 to come along with you. So go to runforchesed.org. This episode is also sponsored by my friends at Koren Publishers. Yes, Koren Publishers have been doing this for quite a while. You want to understand the Gemara in a modern English, and not just understand Gemara, but understand how you can learn the Gemara and develop the tools through Koren, through using their Gemaras, the No Edition. Go ahead to korenpub.com. That is korenpub.com. They have titles from best-selling authors, Mishnayos, Tenach, Navi, Gemaras, everything you need can be found at korenpub.com. Besides for like, obviously a dishwasher and other stuff that's on Appliance, we don't want to get them mixed up. But anything that you're putting on those bookshelves in your house, korenpub.com. That is korenpub.com. You're going to use promo code meaningful for 10% off everything site-wide. That is 10% off your purchase just by using promo code meaningful. Head to korenpub.com today. You have to navigate a lot with the position you're in. Single mother, having gone through, you've gone through it. But is there ever a moment that you sit back now with all that you have now and you wish that you can turn back the clock to when you were 22 again or 20 and just start over? That means you don't necessarily have the things that you have now. But that also means that you don't necessarily have the baggage that you have now.
Yeah.
If you could take that pill, would you?
It's a tough question. I think about it a lot. No. I don't think that I would go back for numerous reasons. Number one is because I've come to this place of understanding within myself that what happened to me had to happen because I had to become the person that I am today. And so it happened because I had to become this person. I believe that if it wasn't this, it would be something else that would bring me to this place. And who knows what that would have been. And number two, I got my son out of it. And for me, having my son, gave me so much purpose, especially when I felt so lost. He became my light at the end of the tunnel. Like I just did everything for him. Like from day one, I was like, okay, fine. Like, all right, fine. So I'm going to do this by myself, but I'm going to do this for him. And like, he just became, I was getting up for him. I had a newborn. I was getting up multiple times a night and multiple times a day. And it was just, I am doing this for him. I'm doing this for him. And it was just like it got me through it. It got me through that time. And so I don't know that I would change.
How would you describe the old you and the new you or the present you?
I would say we're similar. We're similar people. I'm just I've been through a lot. So I've grown a lot. I was more naive. Honestly, I was more naive. I thought that life was, I'm a planner. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get engaged at 19, married at 20. I'm going to have a baby at 21, then another baby at 23. I'm going to, check the things. And I had this whole plan of what my life was going to be like. And then I didn't get engaged at 19. I got engaged at 20. I'm like, okay, so we're replanning here. I'm going to get engaged at 20, married at 21.
No, Waze does that. It's like, and you're like, you got to turn. Yeah, and it's like, why now?
Yeah, there's like a slight buffer. And then I was like, all right, so we're back on track here. I would say I was more naive, but I grew a lot. So I don't know that I would take away that growth. Obviously, I wish it never happened because who wants to go through something hard and who wants to be divorced? Divorce it's a lot. Being a single mom is a lot. But I don't think I would change it if I had to lose everything.
You mentioned in passing that therapy was something that you did. I imagine it's something you did for yourself as well, as beyond just the marriage, just the having to get divorced part.
Yeah.
What role did that play in you rebuilding as a person?
It was massive. I say I don't know who I would be without therapy because I genuinely don't know where I would be without therapy. But it was also just so important to have someone on the outside who can guide you and tell you when you're being irrational and spiraling in your own thoughts, because everyone does. And there's a very strong stigma around therapy.
Yeah. You know a thing or two about that.
I myself go to therapy, so that's why we try to break it, saying, hey, I'm a therapist.
All therapists need therapists.
I agree.
There's a very strong stigma around therapy. But when I started going and really looking forward to going, because it was so helpful, even just to talk, like just to have someone who's going to sit there and listen. Okay, they're being paid, but they're sitting there and listening. They say
I got a lot to say. I'm just staying quiet right now. No, we don't get paid nearly enough.
Like with therapists, like exactly. it's like let's say your session goes to like 2:45 and it's like 2:43, and you go like, yeah, so then I killed that guy. The therapist is like, we'll pick it up from here next time. We'll pick it up.
The breakthroughs are always
pretend
at the end.
I didn't hear that. And we will. Sorry, so you said he was your best friend, right? Exactly. We'll discuss that next time.
Yeah, the breakthroughs are always at the end of the last 5 seconds.
We call it a doorknob issue, by the way. As they're at the door and they're ready to turn. By the way,
which client does that the most with you? What's his name? I'm kidding. You can't say that. There's a stigma. I feel like your whole life is like within this circle, and there's like a stigma about everything. Mm-hmm. Single mother, divorce, therapy. Like
I became the poster child for divorce.
That's
in a wild way.
Yeah. I think I'll reframe that because I'm on the outside. I think you became the poster, well, not child, but poster person for choosing life amidst the struggle that was dealt to you, like that you're going through. Meaning, the reason why you're sitting here, and there's a lot of people that get divorced. There's a lot of people that are single mothers. But you are living your life. You are young. You are living your life. You are running marathons. You are traveling. You are doing things that you're passionate about. And you're talking about this to a whole world of people that don't ever want to deal with this. And they should never deal with this. But unfortunately, there is going to be people who do.
Right.
And you're talking about it.
Yeah.
That could be helpful for them.
I mean, yeah. I think when I started my Instagram page, and the whole way that it started was that I worked in a clothing store and I was a personal shopper, so I was like fashion blogging, but not really.
What is a personal shopper?
I shop for people. Like someone comes in.
Full stop. You shop for people. Okay.
Yes, I shop for
very
people.
Five Towns thing.
It was on Central Avenue.
That's everywhere, actually.
Personal shoppers?
Sure. People don't. Not everyone has good taste of what to match.
So you hire someone to go shopping for you? That's what they could do?
I mean, I worked for the store. So people would come in and I would help them
personal shopper
get dressed.
I want that.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. It was amazing because I loved helping people feel good about themselves. And so it was like, it gave me a lot of chiyas.
Right.
But so I was like fashion blogging on the side. It wasn't like, I wasn't like trying to be the next big fashion blogger, but it was more like to get my own name out there a little. And then I got married and stopped working in the store, and so my page kind of fell off a little. And also I had my son during COVID. So that was also an important note, is that we were all in quarantine. So I started posting my OOTDs, my outfit of the days, on Instagram after I got divorced, and it felt so inauthentic. Because I'm standing there and I'm smiling, I'm wearing my sweatshirt, and I'm like, everything's great. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, it wasn't that I was super depressed and miserable, but I wasn't, look at my sweater. Like, it was just so inauthentic. And I was like, what am I doing? But it was like a little bit of an outlet for me at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I went with it. And then it was Hanukkah. It was the first Hanukkah after I got divorced. And I was sitting and looking at the candles. And I was like, wow. Like, I just was really reflecting. I like entered a place of like really reflection. And I went on my Instagram, which at the time had like, I don't know, 150 followers. And I just shared a little bit about what it was to be a single mom and what I was feeling. It was kind of like my announcement to the world that I was divorced, not intentionally, but a lot of people who followed me on there were older friends who weren't in the know. There were a lot of people who did know because my brother got married. And
you were there, yeah.
Everyone who was at the wedding knew, even though I wasn't even officially divorced yet. But I walked down the aisle alone with my son, and that was pretty much, me telling everyone, hi, I'm single now.
Like daunting.
It was a lot. It was really hard. My brother and his wife were extremely kind and offered to have nobody walk down the aisle so that I shouldn't have to walk down by myself.
That's really, really sweet.
It was really special, but I was like, no, like, I'm going to do this because I don't have anything to hide. I didn't do anything wrong. Being divorced is not a sin. It's okay that I'm divorced, and I'm going to walk down the aisle, and I'm going to be okay. And it'll be hard. And it was. I was, half crying the whole way down, but I did it. And looking back, that was an extremely powerful moment. It was like a pivot for me of like, okay, I'm not going to hide in my divorce. I have nothing to be ashamed of. And so fast forward, I was posting on my Instagram, and I posted a little bit, and the response was extreme, like extreme outpouring of support and love. And I started posting more. And as I found my way, I just started sharing what the journey was like, and it resonated with people. And I mean, the rest is history. But having this space where I can share and feel less alone while also letting other people feel less alone, to me was like, it's everything. Because so many people, like you said, there's tons of people that are divorced, and everyone feels alone. And that was like, for me, I felt so isolated. Even though I lived with my family, I was surrounded by people every single day. Baruch Hashem, I have a lot of siblings. It was a busy house, a happy house, but I felt so isolated and so alone if no one could possibly understand what it feels like to be me right now. And the truth is, I was probably right. Nobody could possibly understand what it's like to be me. But I also can't understand what someone else is going through. And so if we all collectively know that we're all not alone in feeling alone, and that's the messaging here. Like, we're not alone in feeling alone, because I went through my own thing. You go through your own thing. Everyone here, everyone in the world goes through something. And it's almost like, I kind of picture like a hallway full of doors where everyone is in a different room, all feeling alone. But if we would all just leave the door, we would see that there's a hallway full of hundreds of doors with everybody feeling alone inside their room. So everyone just needs to walk out the door and see that we're not alone. And that was my Instagram page for me. It was like stepping out the door into the hallway.
And that would resonate with a lot of people, because as you said, everyone feels somewhere they're alone.
Yeah.
Driving over here, I was speaking to a therapist that's fairly popular, or very popular, and he's just going like, I just can't handle the pressure. And I go, and what happens when you share it with, he's got like a youth center, and I go, so what happens when you share it with others? He goes, then what are you talking about? Everyone wants to get to your position. Like, how could you complain, or how could you feel overwhelmed? I go, and how did that feel that you're just speaking to someone that really gets you? He goes, I think I'm going back into therapy. But yeah, we need that permission to realize. And I think that's very much what your Instagram page, what's resonating with people. It's not just about divorce or a single mom. We're all going through something, and someone that can be real, authentic. And I think most importantly, live your life, be energized, be excited, be positive. I think that's the message that people are attracted to. People are interested, and they want, how do I bring that in my life?
Yeah. Well, I think it's learning to step away from the pain. There's a book called Tuesdays with Maury, where there's a man, Maury, who has ALS, and his former student, Mitch, he went to him and he shared his life lessons with him. And one of the things that Maury said was, because Mitch asked Maury, how do you deal with the pain? And Maury said, learning to accept the pain, feel the pain. I'm not going to pretend I'm not in pain. I'm feeling pain, but then step away from the pain. And that kind of became my mantra of my life, of like, okay, self, this is anxiety. This is pain. This is sadness. And I'm going to feel that. I'm not going to push it away. I'm allowed to be sad. This sucks. I'm standing in a singles event with a room full of people, and I'm looking at all these singles, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? What am I standing in a singles event for? I already did this. Like, I already stood in this room. I already was surrounded by singles. And then I got married, and I was out of it. And now I'm back, and it's so weird and painful. And I'm standing in the room, I'm looking around at everybody, and it sucks. It really sucks. I'm like, I should not be here. I'm not in your crowd anymore of you people. Not in a bad way. Like, I'm not single anymore, but I am. I'm single and it sucks. Okay. Like, okay, so it sucks. And letting myself be sad for a minute, and then stepping away and being like, okay, I'm here. I'm at the singles event. It's unfortunate that I'm here. I hate the fact that I'm single now, but this is my life. So I can either sit here and feel sorry for myself, or I can go talk to people and try to meet somebody. And I think that is reflective of any situation in your life where you can feel sad or anxious or overwhelmed or anything except the fact that, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Maybe the situation is overwhelming.
That is an amazing method in therapy. It's called ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. And there are several components. And the biggest component where it starts is feel it. And then they have a component that you're also doing called diffusion. You diffuse yourself from the pain. So you first got to feel it, because if you're fighting it, it's just going to be there. I'm really not that. Yeah. You can't fight it. You can't fight the actual feelings. And the more you push it away, it's going to come
back full force.
Exactly. So that's acceptance. And the commitment is to living an authentic life. And the process in the middle, there are 6 steps, but one of them is as exactly what you're doing, diffusing. Yeah. You're diffusing yourself from so you're in a singles event. I shouldn't be here. I got married. Well, no, I'm here, but I'm here. I don't have to be here with that mindset.
Right.
So wonderful. I got to call up Dr. Hayes and say, you just were machavan to his idea and you're doing it so eloquently.
Quick word from my friends at Growtha. Well, guess what, guys? You know the SEO company that has generated over $100 million in leads for their companies? You know who? It's only one answer, and that is my friends at Growtha. So go ahead, go to growtha.com today and get in touch with Josh Turniak. That is where it's at. You want to be number 1 on Google. That means when someone searches, hey, need a nursing home near me. What's the best ABA therapist in my community? I need a nursing home. I need a homemade in my house. Where do I get that? When someone Googles that, who's going to show up top? Your competition, because they hired Growtha. It's going to be you, because you heard this advice and you found out that Growtha is the company that you should hire. Head to growtha.com right now. No commitment. Just go to their website and tell me you can say no to this, people. These are the best SEO experts in this field. So go ahead and make sure to reach out to growtha.com, because you are about to get a lot busier. Growtha.com. We'll be right back to this episode. A quick word from my friends at Rothenberg Law Firm. Rothenberg Law Firm. Because if you've been in an injury, you've been in a car accident, if you are a victim of a negligence case, the people you want in your corner are the Rothenbergs at injurylawyer.com. Injurylawyer.com. They are there for you, the Rothenbergs. You guys know my friends Harry Rothenberg, Ross Rothenberg. They are top-notch lawyers. Besides just being top-notch Jews, they're top-notch lawyers. Head to injurylawyer.com today. Right on that home screen, you will see the ability to fill out a free case evaluation. Hey, you're sitting at your Shabbos table and you're like, 2 weeks ago I fell off my bike and really I got hit by a car and you know what? Hey, you got hit by a car? Yeah. Well, you might be able to collect on those damages. You understand that? Oh, I could? Yeah, you could. How? Well, go to Rothenberg's website, go to injurylawyer.com, fill out that free case evaluation, and they'll reach out to you and they'll tell you, hey, listen, you have a case in your hands that we could take on, or they'll tell you, not so sure. But the fun part is if they don't win, you don't pay. So you got nothing to lose. Head to injurylawyer.com today, fill out your free case evaluation. We're back to this episode. Let me ask you, you really threw yourself into single mom mode. And probably a byproduct of doing that is you don't focus on yourself all that much at that time. Well, how do you make time for yourself? How do you focus on you when you the way you coped in the beginning for sure was, I'm just doing this for him. I'm doing this for my son. I'm doing this for my son.
Yeah.
How do you, like married couples are, they're going out, they're blah, 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 but you were just.
I mean, it's hard. Being a single mom is very hard. I don't think that anybody realizes, I definitely didn't, what it means to be a single mother until you're in the situation. There is a tremendous lack of awareness, simply because most single moms are quiet about it. We're not, I'm not so quiet about it, but most single moms are not posting on their Instagram page.
Talk about it. You have this.
So I think there is a lack of awareness of what it means to be a single mother, which is that your life is your child, because there is no one else. Even when you have family, I live with my parents, I live with my siblings, I'm the mother.
Yeah.
And I make it my priority to be his mother. My mother is his grandmother. So she is the grandmother. And that comes with it's a little complicated when she constantly wants to give him snacks. And I'm like, he lives here.
Yeah.
But I am the mother. And I make it my priority to be his mother. And I think most single parents they make their children their life. And we don't really have any other choice. There is no backup plan. There is no 3:00 in the morning, your child just threw up, honey, go take care of it. Or I want to take a shower, can you watch him? Or I want to go to the supermarket, can he stay home? Like it's 24/7. You're always on the clock. It's your full-time job with no pay. It's a lot. And so learning to make time for yourself takes time. It definitely took me a while until I even felt ready to separate myself from him at all, because I was very attached and I was very like, I'm going to be his mother. And so I didn't really want to let anyone else watch him. A, because I didn't want to ask for help, but B, because I was in this like fight or flight mode of I'm the mother and like he is my son and I'm going to be his mother. I had to learn that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to let someone watch him for an hour. And I joined a local gym, and that was really what sparked my entire growth journey, was joining this gym. Because I learned, A, that making time for me was okay. But I also became super, super passionate about fitness and fitness for mental health. Yes, fitness is very important for your physical health, but for your mental, it's incredible. I mean, it gave me the space to deal with what was happening to me. When you're lifting weights, when it's heavy, it's working. When it hurts, it's working. If you're lifting light weights, most of the time, you're not making the change that you want. If it doesn't burn, if it doesn't hurt, you're not growing.
Right.
And so learning that in the gym translated into my life of like, okay, like, yeah, this sucks. Life sucks right now. But okay, like that's where the growth is happening, because growth happens in the hard moments. And that's what started my trajectory of running. And running really reminds me of life, because
you just did a marathon this past week, right?
On Sunday.
Full marathon?
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
It was incredible. It was hard.
What was the time?
4:58.
4:50.
4 hours and 58 minutes.
How many miles? 23?
26.2.
Math? Oh, it's just 3 miles. Yeah.
It was like 11 minutes a mile.
Okay, that's good.
I wanted faster than that, but the winds.
Oh,
the winds got me. The winds were really intense.
Oh, you're for real about the winds?
Oh, I'm being dead serious.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, there were
something I would
17 miles an hour winds.
Whoa.
The headwinds were really strong, and so it set me back. But I had to roll with it. I'm like, okay.
I have a bone to pick with the marathon running people right now. I was sitting in traffic during the New York City Marathon. I was just looking at these people running in front of my car. I'm like, why?
What are you doing?
Why can't you run at 11 p.m. to 4 a.m.? Why you got to do this smack in the middle of a Sunday?
You know what? We always have to run alongside traffic. So for one day, the traffic can drive alongside us.
There's like an open field upstate. Just run straight across. I can give you 30 miles. Experience. Yeah, of course. What is something you want?
They enjoy watching you sit there while they're running
That's what I'm starting to think, by the way. I was...
1,000%.
No, prior, I was very like, oh, running is amazing. But that was a rough day. It was a bad day for runners.
So sorry.
Around the world. You made a bad enemy. I'm just saying.
I'm so sorry.
Shout out Shalom Lemmer.
On behalf of the running community, I
of course, thank you. What do you want, I guess, people to know out there specifically about single motherhood in the Frum community? Like, is there some way that as a community we could be more sensitive? Is there something to do? Is it like invite me for Shabbos meals? What is it exactly? I know for let's say people, we have a podcast, Spark Gredco Stories of Hope.
Yeah.
A lot of it is like, when invite us for Shabbos. Like, what is it for the single mom?
So it's a few things. I think that as a community, we definitely lack awareness. I think it's growing, but there is definitely a lack of awareness. I think when someone, Chas v'shalom, is widowed, there's a tremendous amount of support.
Yeah.
Let me, give you meals and get your kids into school, and financial support and emotional support and shuls. And there's a tremendous amount of support. And I don't find that there is that support for single parents. Not because people don't want to give the support. It's just they don't think about it. It's like, okay, so you got divorced. it's also that it's not just about the right after. Like, I think sometimes people forget that you're still living in the divorce. It's still happening to me. Yeah, the trauma is over, that fight or flight time, that's over. But in some ways, it's harder because then you're living with the day in, day out of this is my long term. When I first got divorced and I moved back home and I live in one bedroom with my son, and people would say, well, how's that going to work long term? I'm like, what do you mean long term? There's no long term here. I'm getting remarried. Like, it's not a question. It was not a question. I'm getting remarried. There is no long term. He's turning 4, still not remarried, dealing with that. And people don't, it's over. Like, my divorce is something that happened to me and I'm past it. But I'm not past it. I'm over my ex. I'm over that marriage. I know that that wasn't right for me, but that doesn't mean that I'm over the divorce. I'm still divorced. That divorced person is still me.
It's basically something that's happening to you every day.
It's happening. Yeah, it's happening every single day. And I'm living with it every single day. And I'm being a single mom every single day.
What would you like of the community? What would you like them to do?
$1 million.
Yeah, $1 million would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah, take $1 million.
When you're not sure, to say $1 million.
Trip to Hawaii.
Yeah.
No,
It's not that hard.
I think a few
those are
things.
manageable.
I still have my son is turning 4, so he's still little. So I'm not yet in the parsha of schools, but I'm entering it now, and I already see it's going to be a little challenging. But I think that I honestly believe that if we as a community just have awareness that it's difficult and that everyone's just doing their best, and no one chose to get divorced. No one got married thinking, I'm going to get divorced. Unless, they're marrying someone super rich and whatever. But for the most part.
They made sure it was a good prenup ahead of time. So
yeah, for the most part.
We don't recommend that.
10 out of 10 don't recommend divorce. And unless it's right for you, obviously.
Right.
Get divorced if it's a
You're saying like
situation,
you're saying advocacy in a way. Like someone to advocate for. Well, it's very interesting because, I spoke to someone, I think recently about this. We were speaking about the differences in organizations and the stigmas that exist in our circles. And it's like, okay, so RCCS that, deals with cancer patients. It's really amazing the outgoing support for those kids and the people. And then, you have like an organization, Nafshi, that deals with families of kids who will go off the derech. And those parents are kind of like hiding. They're hiding that child. They're hiding. It's a shame, but it's also it's in a way, it's no different than the cancer. It's something it's an illness that's happening. It's something that's kids in pain. Who else decides to just leave everything they're ever comfortable with in their life unless they're in some sort of pain.
Right. No, 100%.
But with a divorce, it's also like, okay, so the comparison to a widow and someone who divorced. So people look at the widow like, she didn't want this. She didn't choose this.
Right.
But the divorce, some people can look at it and be like, she's culpable. So she did something.
Right.
But that's not the case. And even if it is the case,
right, that's the thing. That's the most important thing, is that even if they're both two extremely emotionally healthy people who got married and then ended up getting divorced for whatever reason, no one, I can say with almost full certainty, they didn't go into their wedding thinking they were getting divorced. Nobody wants to get divorced. And there's this idea in the community that it's almost like, okay, like deal with it.
Right, like you made this issue.
Deal with it. Right. And it's not coming from a place, it was not malicious. It's just like, deal with it. Like, okay, it sucks for you. But like, you drove him crazy, so he left. Would anyone say that to someone who was widowed? I really hope not.
NRS Pay, yes, part of the IDT family, a huge corporation, a public company that is very trusted. When it comes to credit card processing, you want to make sure you are working with honest people, an honest company. The last thing you want as a business is to look through your statement and you're seeing fees that you don't recognize. Because then you're like, oh gosh, how long has this been happening for? How many thousands and tens of thousands and maybe hundreds, maybe millions have I been throwing away because I am not working with the right credit card processor? Well, NRS Pay is there for you. No long-term contracts needed, no hidden fees. Straight up, honest credit card processing. You go to nrspay.com, the first thing you'll see is testimonials from Mariano Rivera. The best baseball closer in the history of baseball. If he's on their team, I want to be too. If there's no other reason to join NRS Pay, that's for sure one. So head to nrspay.com and join them today. A big thank you to our friends at Town Appliance. Let me tell you, friends, end of year savings are happening right now through Town Appliance. You want 43% off, 36% off, 18% off. It's high, obviously, you know, that's how we do things. No, but seriously, you can get major discounts when you go to townappliance.com. Whether you're doing a new construction or you're trying to get some new appliances in your house and get the old ones out, Town Appliance is the go-to place for you ever since 1979. If I stop you in the street, I ask you, when was Town Appliance started? You better know the answer. You better know the answer. 1979. Yes, and they've been doing amazing business. And you can send a message on WhatsApp and say, hey, I need a new fridge. I need a new oven. I need a new dishwasher. Or I'm buying a new house and I need all new appliances. And they'll be like, oh, cool. Where do you hear about us? And you'll be like, oh, I heard you, baby. We're meaningful people. And they'll be like, oh, that's so nice. Maybe we'll keep advertising with them. And you'll be like, yeah, you totally should because I love that podcast. And they'll be like, okay, fine, we will. And then they will. And then we're going to be happy. And you're going to be happy because you use them. And they're going to be happy because you use them. And I'll be happy because you called them. Happiness all around. Townappliance.com.
So the takeaways I'm getting is for people actually to approach and say, hi, what can I do for you today? Like, is there anything I could help?
It's a same.
Like, you have your son, like, hey, what do you want to sleep overnight? Do you want to ever just?
Right, I think it's more. I think it more ties into the same thing of. I don't know that saying, what can I do for you? When I first got divorced, the what can I do for you was a very daunting question. What can you do for me? Right. Well, for starters, I'd like to not be divorced. Yeah. So I don't know that like what. I don't 100%.
Sephora says like it was very special when she's single and people would come over and say like, oh, come for Shabbos. That's like, okay, thank you. But if you come and say, hey, June 15th, come for Shabbos.
The open invitation. You have an open invitation to my house. Great. So I have to text you on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Thursday and ask you if I can come to your house. Is it okay? Am I infringing? Like, no. Right. You know, like I had a friend who after I got divorced, she would show up at my house with a cup of coffee, drop it off and leave.
That's really
that was
so
it.
Act.
She would just showing me that she was there. The people who would text me consistently, even when I didn't answer their texts, over and over and over and over, just repetitive. Even now, to this day, 4 years later, I have people who are texting me randomly, not as often, but randomly to check in and just be like, hey, thinking of you. I don't need the $1 million. I don't even need you to invite me for a Shabbos meal if you can't host me for a meal. Like Baruch Hashem, I live with my parents. So I don't have that personal struggle. I can't so much speak to that struggle. I know that it's a massive struggle and people are really dealing with it. And it's a tremendous issue. And Sephora is incredible in her grappling of those issues. I personally don't have that so much because I live with my parents. So I always have, Baruch Hashem, a place to go. But just the being there and the checking in and the acknowledging of the fact that it's hard and that when you're in a situation where you're with someone who is single, to be extremely sensitive when it comes to dating, when it comes to pregnancy. I think people don't think about the fact that when someone's divorced, especially divorced with a child, when you're announcing your pregnancy or when you're announcing your engagement, it's like, well, they were already engaged. It's fine. It's not fine. It is soul crushing. When I get those texts, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you that you're having a child, but my heart is breaking into a million pieces. And I'm thinking back to that moment that I was pregnant and I was dancing around my kitchen and I was so over the moon and I was at my ultrasounds, and anytime anyone tells me they're pregnant, my immediate thought is, oh my gosh, I had an ultrasound. I want to be pregnant again. I want that feeling again. I want it so badly. And just because I have a child, it's similar to someone who's going through infertility in some ways, of the extreme desire to have a child.
Right. We spoke about this with Amy Barron from I Was Supposed to Have a Baby. She was on the show, and we off camera, I think we were talking about this, where there's this concept of infertility, the whole world of people, whether they're divorced, the people are divorced who they're just not in the position to have a kid now. They can't. And it's also crushing because you want to build a family, you want to have more kids, and you can't.
I can't have a baby because I literally do not have the ability to right now. And it's like when a date doesn't work out, like it sucks because I'm not getting married. And of course I want to get married. I want to have a husband, but I want to have children. I want to have the life, the carpools and the multiple children and I want my son to have siblings that are close in age to him and I want a little girl and all the feelings that everyone has who wants to have children. Everyone who wants to have children, we all have these same feelings. And just because I have a child doesn't mean that I don't want to have more children. And I feel that there is, not everybody, of course there are people who are sensitive, there is a general lack of understanding and awareness of what it feels like to be stuck, based solely because you can't meet your person. And I mean, there's so much that goes into the dating world. It's an entire conversation in itself of shadchanim who won't send me to guys because they don't think that the guy will go out with a girl who's divorced or divorced with a kid. They don't think. Not that they asked, they don't think. Who are you to tell me or to tell anybody that you don't think a guy would go out with a girl? You know how many guys I've gone out with who are divorced, who are single, never married? Tons. More guys single, never married than divorced. But the shadchanim think, and people, I don't want to hate on shadchanim, but people,
they get enough hate.
People as a general thing, they automatically, it's like tying back to that initial point that I made in the beginning where I went to HASC and people wanted to set me up with guys because we went to HASC. So people automatically want to set me up with guys who are divorced because I'm divorced. And I understand it. And there is a level of understanding there, but right. I'll go out with a guy and the only reason we're on a date is because we're divorced.
The handicapped community has the same issue.
Yeah.
And we speak about this a lot. I've a couple of friends who are handicapped in one way or another. And they just say like, I don't want to just be set up with someone because they are also one way, like.
And mental health as well. If someone's struggling with depression, so you have to date someone that's depressed or anxious. Like, why?
Yeah, like that's probably,
if anything,
that's not a great mix.
Exactly.
Right. If anything, the opposite.
Right.
It's definitely.
What would you recommend? So how would you recommend if someone in the family is, let's say, expecting or got pregnant, is getting engaged, how would you recommend if they're being mindful of what their friend or relative that's a single mother, how should they share it, break the news, share it with them?
I can't imagine it's like, right, like to that point, I can't imagine it's more sensitive for you to bump into them and they're 9 months pregnant. That's like, right. That's also, right.
Better. In my, and again, I can only speak for my own experiences, so I can't speak for everybody as a whole. It's always ask your LOR, ask your local Orthodox rabbi, ask them afterwards, is there a better way that I could have done this?
So what do you think is the right way?
But for me personally, what I have always appreciated is, I think what a lot of people tend to do is either they'll announce it on like a family chat or they'll like send a picture of like their sibling holding a big sister picture and that's how they do it. And like, to me, like, come on. I would much rather you have texted me. Okay, I'll give an example. My cousin, she was expecting and she was about to post her pregnancy announcement on my family chat. And beforehand, she texted me and she said, I just want you to know. No, she called me. She said, I just want you to know, I'm about to post the fact that I'm pregnant on the family chat. And I can't imagine how painful it is for you. But I just wanted to let you know so that you didn't find out that way. I still drove down the block, parked my car, and cried for an hour. But the sensitivity in, I'm about to share this, and I just wanted you to know first, so that it was coming from it was coming from me. I'm telling you this directly. I can't imagine how painful it is for you.
And you're being seen. They're seeing you.
It's just an acknowledgement of, yeah, this sucks for you. And I wish that there was something I could do to make it better, but I can't. And I'm still going to live my life and I'm still going to announce my pregnancy, as she should, because it's a beautiful, incredible thing. And I'm so happy for her. But just a little bit of sensitivity in advance of just like, I'm just letting you know. And that to me was everything. Way more than the text with just the picture. Big sister. It's like a knife.
Yeah.
The text is, or a phone call. Just,
I'm just letting you know. I see you. You're here.
You can't change the fact that you're about to tell me you're pregnant. And you shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
Because it's
That's a
amazing.
great thing, yeah.
It's a beautiful, incredible thing. And
We're going to get married. Like, great.
Yeah, right.
You should get engaged.
You can't change
I don't
the
want
fact
to preclude
that you're
you.
Exactly. You cannot change the fact that you're going to get engaged. You shouldn't change the fact that you're about to get engaged. It's a beautiful, incredible thing that you deserve. Every single person deserves to have that happiness. Every single person. And you should want to tell me, and I want to be included in these things. It's not like I would be more hurt if you didn't tell me, and then I found out, that
you didn't
right
think
after,
or
I didn't think that you could handle it. Exactly. Like, of course I can handle it. It's hard. It sucks, but I want to be there for you. I want to celebrate in your simcha. I just want sensitivity when it comes to sharing it. And I think that goes for everything. People who are struggling with infertility, the sensitivity in sharing the news, people who are single, never married, or divorced, the sensitivity in, I know you're struggling, and I can't imagine how hard it's going to be for you to hear this, but I just wanted to share it with you personally because I know it's hard for you and I want you to share in my simcha. That's it. That's everything. You can't change the fact that it's hard for them, and you shouldn't try. Sometimes there's nothing that you can say. And that ties into the original point that we were making before of what should your family, was there anything that a family member can say? Honestly, no. There's not really anything that a family member can say. Just be there. I know it's hard. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry it's hard for you. And if there's anything that I can do, like, I'm here for you. That's it.
What do you want if, let's say there's a guy or girl out there that is unfortunately in the thick of it right now, and they're going through this, divorce, whether with a kid, without a kid, and they are just turning to this podcast as some way of help. What would you say to that person if they're sitting right there right now?
Person.
Meal Mart.
Meal Mart. 1 second at a time. You don't have to worry about what's going to happen next week or tomorrow or in an hour from now or in a month from now. That is not important right now. What's important is getting through right now. Whatever is going to happen in the future feels super overwhelming. The future is overwhelming. And the situation that you're in right now, that's overwhelming. It's hard. It's scary. It feels like a lot. And when you try to think about how is this going to look long term, or how am I going to deal with this for the next X amount of time, even if it's a day, it feels like a lot. 1 second at a time. Like, get through 1 second, and then get through 1 minute at a time, and then 1 day at a time. That's exactly how I got through it. I was just like, I'm going to focus on right now. I'm going to get through this second. I don't have to worry about it in 5 minutes from now. I don't have to worry about it in an hour from now. I'll deal with that in an hour from now. But right now, just get through right now. And that's how you get through it. There's no other way in my experience of getting through it, because if you try to fix tomorrow, you can't fix tomorrow. You can only fix today. So get through right now, this second.
Wow. And if I would ask you, I find that when people live in the moment, they also need a hope or something in the future that they think that they can attain. What's something that you would say that you use or you visualize, you imagine, that's helping you get through the 1 minute at a time?
I'd say a few things. Number one, setting goals and accomplishing them. It's why I love running. There's always a goal to chase. But even if that's not your thing, setting goals and accomplishing them is massive, and visualizing what it is that you want. However painful it is, it's okay to dream and want and long for things, and visualize yourself getting married, and visualize yourself. Anytime I'm at a wedding, it's very hard, obviously, and it's definitely a 1 minute at a time kind of situation, but I sit at the chuppah and I'm like, I'm going to be there. The next wedding I'm at is going to be mine. And then It isn't. But one time it will be, because it has to be, because Hashem put me in this situation for a reason. I am in this situation for whatever reason. I am in the situation right now, and it sucks and it's hard, but I am going to get remarried. It's not a when. It's not an if, it's a when. I always say if I get remarried, my mom's like, it's not an if, it's a when. When I get remarried, when I have more children, when I get the house that I want, when I get the job that I want, when. It's not if, it's when. And sitting in those moments, in those painful moments, and saying, when I have that thing, it's going to feel so much better because I waited for it and I hurt for it and it was painful. And the same way lifting a weight is painful in the moment, but the growth at the end is worth it. It's the same thing. You're in that moment right now and you're in that 1 second and you're down in the dumps and you're down in the trenches and it hurts and it sucks and it burns and it feels awful. But when you get out of it and you get that thing that you want, think about how much more you're going to appreciate it. I thought that dating was hard for me the first time. I was like, this is so hard and the shidduch system is tough. Little naive me. I was 21 years old when I got engaged. But in that moment, that was hard for me. And my feelings were valid then. It was hard. But now it's way harder and I'm going to appreciate it so much more. I'm going to appreciate my marriage so much more. I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with is a lot of times I feel like people view marriage as something that's permanent. And it's not, because I was happily married. I thought I was happily married. There was no way I was getting divorced. And I'm sitting here right now talking to you about my journey being a single mom for 4 years. Nothing in your life is permanent. And to really appreciate what you have and value whatever it is that you have. If you are married and you have a spouse, obviously marriage is hard and it's give and take and it's a lot of work and there's a lot that goes into it and it's not always easy and sometimes you want to rip your hair out, I'm sure, but appreciating the fact that not everybody has the spouse. It's like when you see someone who's handicapped or sick with cancer or any sort of negative thing, you have this like, thank God, you know? I don't find that so many people feel that way about their marriage. Marriage is not given. You are not owed anything. We don't sign a contract at birth saying, my life is going to be perfect. Hashem doesn't owe us a perfect life. He's gifting you these things and we take them for granted because it feels permanent. Because you got married and you stood under the chuppah and you have your ksuba and everything went according to plan and you're in it and you almost forget that it's something that can be taken away in a second, whether because of divorce or something else. God forbid, like nobody should get divorced. Nobody should have any sort of pain ever, but it happens. You are not guaranteed that you're going to be married tomorrow, and to appreciate the fact that you are, or whatever it is that you have. And there's certain things I think that we're naturally ingrained to appreciate. But it's like when you're sick, you know, all of a sudden you realize how great it was to be
not
healthy.
Have a stuffed nose,
yeah, like you forget that your nose works until it's stuffed. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah.
Nothing worse than a stuffed nose.
One nostril stuffed.
Oh, it's like, what is this?
It's miserable.
The imbalance.
The pain.
Yeah, the imbalance. Thank you for coming here and talking about this. You know, a lot of times we have a guest on and it's like, okay, they are at the end of they got past this. You're in it. Yeah. Like that's the rare circumstances. Like you're literally in the middle of this. So like this episode comes out and it's like, well, where will she be in a year from now? Who knows?
We're gonna.
I'll
be on my wedding.
Yeah. We hope to both be there dancing, and it should be a big simcha.
Zipporah tells me she has a chair waiting for me on her podcast.
Nice, awesome. This is the chair.
This is the chair. I will be back here.
Yes, God willing, with your husband. Yes,
a Photoshop.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and opening up about this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I would want to just close with the reminder that I think we all need that. Like as you said, that not to take anything for granted. You sound like an amazing mother and an amazing person, and just to realize, like your son, having a mother that's positive, having a mother that's going through challenges and can actually share this experience that you've gone through, his resilience will start on such a higher level because it's just naturally, just by osmosis, just being around you. And I can see why you've reached so many people. But to realize that to yourself, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
So many people are stuck and get stuck in that level. And you've mentioned two powers that you have. One is you're doing it for yourself and at the same time doing it for your son.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's not always easy by any means, but it's a choice. I make the choice consistently
every day
to be every single day, to not fall into that stuck feeling, because it's so easy to get stuck and to feel stuck, especially when you are stuck.
Yeah.
Right now I'm stuck. I'm not on the other end. Not saying, and it was so hard and now I'm here with my husband and everything's great now.
And I'm highlighting that that's a choice that you're making that many people don't even know they can do that. And I think you sharing this with everyone will inspire.
They see they can do it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
They can
This
do
is
it.
your example right here. Thank you so much, Emmy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Make sure to leave a comment down below. $200 cash to someone who leaves the top comment, the number one comment with the most likes on this episode. So get creative, my friends. The number one like comment is going to win. Thank you for listening to this episode. We're always trying to get original, to break stigmas, and to make change. Not just, create entertaining content for you guys, meaningful content, things that are going to start conversations around your Shabbos table. And speaking about things around your Shabbos table, we have something very, very cool that just shipped in over here from our manufacturers, and that is the Meaningful People game. What? You'll be able to sit at your Shabbos table, take out a game, take out a card, and start reading it to the people around. You can start amazing conversations, hundreds of questions. Yes, stay tuned. They will be for sale very soon. You will hear from me first as soon as they are. But until then, have an amazing week, everybody, and I will see you next week. Or I will see you in the middle of the week, because if you subscribe, you have more content coming out all week. See you.